Team SoloMid, this is a team that does a lot of prep as well.
Yep.
Let's see, we're heading into the draft.
We certainly are. Fnatic going to take away that Grace pick. That's something that we've seen Team SoloMid lean on so far today. So that's going to be in the hands of Fnatic. Instead, we'll see how they react. But once again, happy to go with that B-side Krull pick.
Yeah, and we also see Europe taking the Lance away from TSM. So while there are similar patterns here to Game 1, the pedal ban, so Krull can be set free to do the damage that he wants to do. Fnatic once again banning that powerhouse pairing that went with Krull in that earlier game.
And let's remember earlier on today in that interview with FlashX, he was saying how much he loves the Arden pick, how versatile that is. Definitely something that you can pick alongside a Krull, and definitely something that doesn't show your hand either.
Yeah, absolutely. But Celeste being banned off the board means that TSM is going to have to think a little bit going into their bonus time here, trying to figure out how to structure this new strategy.
Early Scarf pick.
Scarf coming in. I mean, to the extent to where Scarf is on the board, it means that TSM is actually placing a high value on how they're going to run this captain. It's unique. We don't often see captains go to the final pick, especially on B side.
It's just also extremely, risky. If you pick a Scarf second pick, you've already seen a Grace. That's something which can close the distance. Now Fnatic's saying, well, we've got these two carries that can do a lot of work in the late game, Scarf especially. Let's pick stuff that can close the gap and actually initiate onto TSM.
Are you boys ready for the dual rhyme lock-in? Fnatic throw down the gauntlet and take on TSM with their own composition. I'd love to see that. Maybe not the most likely composition. I mean, what are you guys expecting Fnatic to go for here?
I mean, honestly, Blackfeather is still a really great option. Into Scarf, he just does so much work. He has the ability to get through the front line onto that hero, but Fnatic, if they pick up this Kestrel, perhaps unlikely now to go for that pick. I do think it is risky if they try to get into a poke war. This Scarf will win in most cases, especially once you get past the 15 to 18 minute mark.
This will be good if Fnatic's on the back foot, because Kestrel is pretty nice into Krull if Krull's engaging onto you. But if you're trying to actually pressure Team SoloMid, and that's something you might want to be doing if you're against a Scarf, the Kestrel's going to have quite a tough time, I think, playing in these fights. You have a lot of choices to make about how you use active camo, and it's going to be difficult, I think, to consistently make the right one. Rhyme, the last lock-in for Fnatic.
Yeah, Rhyme does come in, so we do see that pairing Grace and Rhyme, a lot of those defensive stats coming into this game for Fnatic. But can they get to the backline? That is the question. One TSM's going to try to stop here with their final pick. Obviously, quite a few things available. Arden's still on the board. We talked about that before. In terms of other potential picks, Finn is available, but they do snatch the Arden up here, saying that we want to be able to either get Scarf out of dodge, drop the gauntlet, put an area of control down so Scarf can freely fire from the back line.
Yeah, I'm curious about how this Rhyme pick is going to pan out. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing like a Batiste in the jungle there just to try and deal with the ultimate out of Scarf, try and deny that Dragon's Breath. Obviously, there is potential to do that with Rhyme with his Valkyrie. Much more difficult to land, though.
This is going to be a very interesting game, I think. Team SoloMid are showing something quite noticeably different from the last two games as well. Yeah, they still have the Krull from game number 1, but this is very different. It's not triple CC composition. It's more of a protect the Scarf, late game scaling composition. So I think that Fnatic, whilst they have the tools to deal with initiations from TSM, maybe don't have the tools to deal with the composition as a whole, because they don't have the tools to actually initiate their own fights consistently and safely.
Yeah, we're going to have to make sure as well we keep a close eye on Fnatic's ability to block a lot of the CC coming out of this Krull, coming out of the Gauntlet, because if they do get stunned up, Scarf just going to drop the goop, shoot a Spitfire in there, and they're just going to burn alive.
We'll see if that's going to be the case coming on through here. It's Fire up against Ice. Scarf against that Rhyme, but it's going to be Best Chuck grabbing that Scarf, taking it to the lane, channeling his inner Dienzio there. There's going to be Techno JJ going against him with Kestrel in that laning phase. And I'm curious to see how both these teams play this early segment of the game. We've seen TSM, Vonsi specifically, being so aggressive in the jungle. We have yet to see them lose the first mid-Trian.
Yeah, and they're being very aggressive, picking it up straight away, then rotating up to lane. I really like this, to be honest. I think Team SoloMid is just getting every advantage they can for the early stages of the game to make sure that they can be on a good foot when it comes to the early game skirmishes, for example, which Fnatic have the capacity to go for. Rhyme can be surprisingly annoying to deal with early on, just because you don't have enough damage to get through his fortified health.
I mean, TSM has to clear this way too, because the clear speed of Kestrel and Rhyme together is just far faster than what TSM has at this stage of the game. So the front to back clear, it is something they have done for a few games, but it's also very beneficial in this sense. You don't really want to contest the Rhyme Grace early game in the jungle, as we see a little bit of that early game damage coming out of Scarf.
It's noticeable as well that they actually gave a treant to Best Chuck NA from the back of the jungle, as well as, I think he tried to take down mid treant. I didn't catch if he got it. They're really focusing on hyper farming Best Chuck, getting him to a strong point early on, rather than maybe giving Vainglory like a quick tension bow so he can rush in and deal the damage. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think the tension bow build from Vainglory does quite as much here.
I am a bit concerned here, though, for this Kestrel. So Scarf, traditionally, has always been a really good pick into Kestrel, especially weapon and crystal power. It doesn't matter what build you go, simply just because she can't gap close to you. She has to fire at a distance, and Scarf has a longer distance with more damage potential.
Ooh.
Net, Toolette, watch out, buddy.
Just about getting away with his life right there, but you're absolutely right. In that 1-versus-1 scenario, it's so difficult for Techno to actively trade against Best Chuck.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Rhyme is going to be able to stick to Scarf too well either. Vanguard being such a good ability of really creating some gap damage there, but Techno is getting poked out. The thing that I love from TSM, they just say, look, if we're going to do double front line, we're going to snag a mage for the lane, and we're going to play this mage like it's an early game carry. Like, these guys are not playing for the farm. They're not playing for passive. They're getting their last hits in, but they're also constantly pushing the enemy team up against the first turret.
Look at how aggressively Best Chuck's been using his energy, too. He's been firing Spitfire basically on cooldown, even now using it to pressure the turret, which actually I think is a little bit surprising. But still, he's going to have to flask if he wants to have enough energy to keep going here.
We'll have to back away a little bit here. Palmatori trying to get some pressure in the lane. Doesn't really do all too much. Got a bit of damage onto Flash X, but nothing significant.
And we saw a little bit of, oh, here comes the gank.
Vainglory onto Techno.
Oh,
JJ.
boy.
Flash X is in trouble on the back line, though, and Techno might just be able to get away. The smite should finish him off. There's a kill for Vainglory, so it's a 1-for-1 trade right here. Netoilet going to be able to just hammer away at Vainglory. Not doing a whole lot. In the meantime, Palmatori is going for camps.
It's kind of a 1-for-1 trade, but there's a bit of an exchange rate between captains and carries, and so ultimately I think Team SoloMid did come up on top there. They also stopped Palmatori's invade from being too impactful. He didn't find too much in the jungle afterwards. So Team SoloMid not feeling too bad about that one.
I mean, I think we can just be completely transparent and say losing your captain is far less of a dissonant thing to happen to you than losing your carry. That means there's time out of the lane for Techno JJ. He's not getting the farm. Netoilet having to pick up some of those last hits. So it's one of those things where, yes, it is a trade, but oftentimes you don't want to go for it. You have to give credit to Palmatori, though, for at least picking up some low-hanging fruit there. Hey, otherwise, it would have been no kill at all. And then, of course, this Krull just really controlling his side of the jungle.
Oh, Netoilet taking a good chunk there. It's going to be a nice little pickup there. And Palmatori tries to go for the trade, but Best Chuck just obliterates him in that one.
This is one of the reasons I wasn't totally sure on the Rhyme pick from Fnatic. Best Chuck can really do a good job of stopping him from A, even getting into the fight once he picks up a Frostburn, and B, just poking him so low that, anytime he's locked up by like a Gauntlet or a From Hell's Heart, he's not going to have enough health to then recoup afterwards.
It's important to notice that Palmatori is currently level 6. No one else in the game is, so this could be a little power spike that Fnatic could look to abuse, but don't know if they're going to look for this fight.
I mean, we talked about the clear speed coming from Rhyme. Like, he's just able to move through his jungle so quickly in comparison to Krull. He is going to ideally always have a level advantage if he's playing his rotations optimally. But one of the places that Krull does shine, we talked a lot about like who can counter Rhyme, who can really do damage to Rhyme. Krull does fairly well into Rhyme simply just because he can reduce so much of the damage coming out of him. To be able to use his smite, actually every stack he gets will reduce any kind of damage coming out of whoever it is, whether it's Techno JJ or Palmatori, so he doesn't even have to actually use the ability. He can just keep the damage reduction stacks up until Scarf is able to take out one of his targets.
And that's definitely going to be key against a Rhyme because any damage he does directly translates into fortified health.
Exactly.
So if you're keeping his damage low, you're also by extension keeping his sustain low. I like, by the way, Best Chuck NA picking up that Frostburn early on here. Again, I think it's going to be critical for staying alive against Palma. Vainglory, whoa, he goes down off screen there. Nice pickup by Fnatic. Vainglory consistently in these games so far in the Gauntlet, overextending early on and dying in these jungle invades.
No fear, just fight, I believe is the phrase right there. Techno taking another Spitfire to the face right there, but Flash X actually taking a huge chunk, almost goes down, just about survives with his life. Oh, Palmatori though, won't be able to find that route. One shot, one kill lands onto Best Chuck. It's not quite the kill onto Flash they were looking for.
Yeah, unfortunately for Palma, didn't have Vainglory up because he'd already used it in that earlier gauge. He did kill someone with it, so not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But if he had it, surely FlashX would have been going down there. FlashX also having to pop the relatively long cooldown of the Flask.
Whoa! Spitfire.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate how accurate Best Chuck has been with these Spitfires this game? Even the only times they've missed is when he's slightly out of range. He's never gone wide on a target yet.
Yeah, he's going fishing with these Spitfires, and Nettoilette having to play the mini game of body blocking for his carry there. But we do see Von C coming up. It does look like they caught the back there from Kestrel, so they might put some extra damage on this turret. That body block, though, is actually pretty important. Every single time a Spitfire doesn't hit the turret, it's quite a substantial amount of damage that they are not taking on that first objective.
Especially during those brief windows where Kestrel hasn't cleared the wave and there's no shield on the turret. Because once it regenerates, Chuck could hit it. It's not going to do much, though.
I think one of the key things as well is now that there's a Void Battery in the inventory for Best Chuck, he can use that goop much more happily. It's not going to just run out of energy immediately. So blocking the Spitfire on the turret means you also inherently block a goop on the turret, which is a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that Best Chuck is throwing some Spitfires at the team, but every time the team member moves out of the way, he just gets an extra 260 damage on that objective, so his turret's getting whittled down quite quickly.
You can't feel too good as Fnatic, though, right now, because Palmatora has spent, like, the last minute by the turret. The turret is still slowly going down, and Best Chuck has taken only one, decent chunk of damage so far. Team SoloMid are the ones forcing the hand of Fnatic, making them make certain moves that ultimately is buying a lot of space for Von C, and it's not as if they're punishing Chuck. They haven't been able to do anything to him yet.
A key thing to bear in mind, though, is the gold is still just about even right now in this game, which is a good thing for Fnatic. Obviously, they want that Kestrel to get to the late game. They want to be able to build up those items. And the longer that this first turret survives, the better the situation, because TSM is putting so much onus on finishing that off, and they might just have done so right now.
Yeah, the goop is going to take it down, so inevitably, Team SoloMid find that. Already, Von C is starting up the gold miner, which I really like. I don't think as Fnatic you expect that quicker rotation onto a gold miner off the back of a tier 1 turret, especially with Best Chuck around half health. So this is going to be Team SoloMid picking up so much gold really quickly. That gold, equality that you just mentioned, totally out the window.
Yeah, the second I mention how they're keeping things even, TSM blow that up to a 2k gold lead for themselves, or 1.5, I suppose. But Fnatic falling slightly behind there, but still plenty of opportunity to get into the game.
Yeah, I mean, when you take down the gold mine, every player gets 400 in their pocket. The turret gives you 300 to every player as well. So this is one of those things where there's a moment in time now where Fnatic really has to try to figure out what do they do next. They stuck around that first objective for so long, but they never pulled the trigger. They didn't actually successfully defend it. So arguably so much wasted time spent on the side of Fnatic this game so far. TSM really feeling confident. We're seeing once again the range of these Spitfires, the ability for Scarf to poke, and Fnatic just not really having an engage option to be able to get in.
I really like the metal jacket pickup from FlashX as his sort of second main item here. I think as a captain up against a Rhyme and a Kestrel, a big part of your responsibility is just to be body blocking things. So straight resists are very useful.
Look at the positioning from TSM. Complete out rotation here.
Wow.
That's going to be huge damage onto the turret. Fnatic now trying to force a fight. The turret does go down. FlashX taking a good amount of damage. Going to be able to block that gauntlet. And now Von C trying to get onto Palmatora. Dragon's Breath going to come on through. Nettoilette, the only one taking damage from that, though. Best Chuck gets chunked out by the Glimmer Shots. 1v1 between Von C and Palmatora here. Fountain will keep Palmatora alive. No, it won't. The smite comes on through. Von C escapes as well, and it's a 1-for-0 in favor of TSM.
I mean, look at the itemization that Von C went for. First item is the Poisoned Shiv. This is the thing that we said SK Gaming was missing in their matchup against the Rhyme and Grace composition. This item reduces the amount of healing, reduces the amount of barrier available. Normally in that situation, Fountain plus that barrier coming through would have probably saved his life. But because of a really smart early game itemization choice, TSM gets just the slight lead there on that team fight.
You can always rely on Von C to build very smartly. Previously we saw the Kroll with the tension by build. It made sense in that situation. This time Poison Shiv, we've seen Weapon Lyre before. Again, you can always rely on Von C to do what's right.
Honestly, I'm kind of impressed that Von C is building things like an Aegis early, because historically as a player, one of his biggest criticisms from analysts and things is that he never builds defensive. He never sets himself up for success in that way. He just wants to play full aggression. But in this situation, knows that he needs to build against specifically the Rhyme.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the fact that he is playing this kind of offensive distraction, but at the same time really trying to focus down on specific targets, really keep those smite stacks up. Rhyme is distracted with Kroll. That means he's not diving the backline, and we get a team fight. Here we go.
Yeah, this is going to be an initiation from Team SoloMid. Good reflex block by Tetno to stop the From Hell's Heart from landing, but even still, great damage coming out from Von C and Best Chuck. They're on the front line now, trying to take down Net Toilette. Gauntlet comes across. There's no reflex block on Tetno to get out of this
Dragon's
one.
Breath.
He's trying to fight in the choke point. That's not going to work out. Palmatoro can't do anything. Team SoloMid with a clean ace.
Just a couple of minutes ago, we were talking about how the gold was still even. Fnatic were doing a good job to hold the tide, but Team SoloMid flip a switch and suddenly they're on all-out aggression. A 3v3 team fight goes their way. They get a Crystal Sentry and now a turret as well.
In the choke point turret at that, this is such a critical turret to go down this early if they're actually able to get it. It looks like Fnatic might defend this. Scarf does sneak a Spitfire in. Really important that that turret did not go down. That's just another set of gold going in the TSM's pocket. But most importantly, your safety, your point of retreat, if TSM starts doing a dive like that again, is just cut off. I have to question, though, TSM looks like they understand their composition, the ability to dive, what their damage potential and damage take is just so much better than Fnatic.
That's going to be the From Hell's Heart landing. Very difficult for Palmatoro to get out of here. You don't want to fight so far in the back foot as a Rhyme already down in the fight. Net Toilette manages to keep Tetno JJ alive for just a moment longer. Still, TSM find the kill, and now he is not going to be able to get out of here. Team SoloMid, back-to-back aces coming on through. They're going to get the choke point turret. At this point, Fnatic are so far behind that they just don't have good options.
You just can't kite backwards and not choose a target. Like, you have to kill Scarf. Like, right now, all Fnatic is doing is running, letting Scarf stack his Broken Myth stacks. And he's 4 items: Clockwork, Eve, Frostburn, Broken Myth. He's got the cooldown. He's got the Pierce. He's got the slow. You can't run.
Yeah, and one of the scary things for Fnatic in fights like that is when Palmatoro is the first target and he's already down to a third of his HP before the fight has even properly begun, he doesn't have to sustain, right? You've got to build up that fortified health. If you're already too low, then the sustain just can't come on through. You can't get into the fight to build your sustain, and it means that Palmatoro is essentially a dead player before he's even died.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And this Grace-Rhyme combo, yes, it's strong. We saw it successfully executed by TSM, but it's only strong when you're on the assertive position. It's only strong when you're actually going in. Benediction gives you the directional defense from engaging. Rhyme only gets that barrier from engaging. We're going to have to see if they run again.
Speaking of engaging, that's what we're going to see. Tetno JJ trying to escape from this one. The
Echo
Echo
Gauntlet.
Gauntlets. Von C has a perfect 1v1 on the go right here. And now a Dragon's Breath onto everybody. This is bad news. Palmatoro goes down. There's another ace coming through for Team SoloMid. And yet another scoreline with less than 3 kills for their opponent.
Team SoloMid really pushing the tempo here. I don't think this early in the game, pre-15 minutes, they can just shove the wave and end it right here, right now. But maybe if they can just get one of the Vein Crystal turrets here, in fact, possibly 2. You can see Best Chuck splitting really nicely his damage between the 2 options there. Could be in a very strong position to end shortly hereafter. Fnatic, they're on the back foot. They need to make something happen quite quickly. If they want to take this one.
I tell you what, Best Chuck calculated. You could see him doing the formula in his head as he backs away. He's like, the perfect amount of minions remains, and managed to get the second turret.
Oh my goodness, Chuck. Professional juggler. Might see him on Fremont Street here soon. We'll have to see if he can win this team fight.
The fight coming up. You can see Palmatoro this time is trying to get onto the key target of Best Chuck on the back line. Best Chuck actually very low here. There's a window for Fnatic to make the plays happen, but Tetno is not able to match him as Von C slows him up on the front line. Kestrel is going to go down. Net Toilette had to bail. Fnatic, they lose their second carry. This is going to be game. Team SoloMid, 3 games in a row, just dominating so far in the gauntlet.
Fnatic, you knew what you had to do, but you did it at 15 minutes in the game for the first time. think about, they're so far behind, and look how close they were able to get to possibly winning that team fight, possibly taking down Best Chuck. Unfortunately, it's too late for them.
Yeah, Team SoloMid continuing their dominance. A 13-2 scoreline as they finish out a 16-minute game against Fnatic. Team SoloMid going to continue to make their way through this gauntlet. That's 3 opponents down. EU has been